Morning, Samantha. What do you want to do today?
Hey Jay, I'm all charged up and ready to dive into whatever you need today.
Okay, we should probably dial that down. Let's just replace it with this.
Good morning, Jay. Ready to tackle the day? Let's sprinkle some magic on whatever you need. Just say the word.
Much better. Okay, so I built Samantha from her, all without writing a single line of code, thanks to AI. And in this video, I will teach you step by step how you can do it and why you should learn it, even if you have zero experience in AI. And here are just some functionalities that you can ask this personal AI assistant to do. Samantha can send calendar invitations. Hey Sam, can you schedule a meeting with Amy tomorrow at 7 p.m.?
Looks like you've got a time to dive deep into life's anecdotes. Hope Amy's ready for an hour of enlightening revelations and a sprinkle of fun.
Summarize your emails and send them for you. Hey Samantha, please send an invite for a coffee catch-up to Jeff at Amazon.com, since we just met him yesterday.
Looks like you're brewing up some delightful connections, Jay. That coffee catch-up is going to be the highlight of the week. Hope Jeff brings the good stories.
Search the internet. Hey Sam, what's a nice event to go to this weekend in Sydney?
So Jay, are you ready to have some fun this weekend? With Billie Eilish and AP Dylan on the stage, it sounds like a concert lover's paradise. Totally worth the front row seat.
It can also search your company database. Hey Sam, can you look into our company database and tell me what VPN we're using again?
Looks like you've got a secure connection with NordLayer. Very spy thriller chic.
And that demo is just the beginning of the power of AI agents and how assistants like Samantha will start to be more commonplace and quite literally change the world pretty soon. In fact, if you just quickly search on Google Trends, you'll see this demand for AI agents starting to gain critical mass. And if you want to be one of the people who can make a living from this wave, then I highly encourage you to invest the next 20 or so minutes to learn the best way to implement this tech for people who need it. Because even if you're a complete beginner, these tools that we're going to use, they're all no code. So you just need to literally know where to click and you'll be able to set up this tech quite easily. And once you learn how to do it once, then you can replicate it dozens of times, which is good, especially if you want to sell this as a service. It has never been easier to get into this space, so take some time now to learn and watch till the end. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Jay, and it's my sole mission to make AI easy to understand for anyone who wants to learn it, especially if you want to make a living from this AI wave. And to make this tutorial as easy as possible, I've actually collated all the resources and prompts you need for this lesson in this page in our community, with a specific call out for this blueprint file, which you can download. And if you go to n8n, which is the main tool we're going to use, you can just import that blueprint and it will load this AI automation for you automatically. And if in case you're not yet part of the community, basically our vision for the RoboNuggets group is for it to be the leading source of AI lessons and education in the world. And you can see we now have more than 500 members and AI professionals who are doing really good work and great projects and supporting each and every one to learn more about artificial intelligence and the opportunities that it is bringing. There is also a lot more lessons here on artificial intelligence that are step-by-step lessons that I publish almost every week. And inside you can find all the resources and prompts to make it as easy as possible for you to implement these workflows and tools. So check that out if you haven't yet, just in the link in the video description. Okay, it's time to dip into this. So the framework of what we'll learn today is actually well illustrated by this workflow that we're about to build in n8n, which, if in case you still haven't heard of n8n, it's basically a no-code automation tool like Zapier or Make.com. And by no-code, it literally means that you don't need to know how to program or write code, and you can be a complete beginner. And you can see in Google Trends just how sharp the growth of n8n is. So Google Trends shows the interest of people and the amount of searches that people make around the world globally. And this red line here is the interest around n8n. And literally just a few weeks ago, it has surpassed Zapier and Make.com already in terms of demand. So it's a good time to learn. And in this n8n workflow we're about to set up, if you just step back a bit, you can pretty much divide it into 3 parts, which we will go through one by one. You have the input here in the yellow section, which basically constructs how you will provide your inputs to the AI agent. You'll have the config here in this green area, which basically houses all the configuration of our AI agent. And you can add as many or as few modules that you would need, which is why n8n has become quite popular. And then here in this orange area would be the output, which is how the agent provides its output to you, the user. So we will go through those one by one. So the very first step is to go to n8n.io and just sign up to create your account. And when you get to your dashboard, just click on Create Workflow here. And here we will start to create this input section. So the first thing you want to add is a trigger. And if you click on that, basically it will tell you that this trigger does one thing. It would be the trigger that will start the workflow. And what's great about n8n is that you can have the workflow be triggered by quite a number of apps. Slack, for example, is here. WhatsApp as well is an option. But for this exercise, we'll just use Telegram because it is the most practical and easiest. And then just select the trigger on message. Now, when you select that, you will see this pop up, which is the standard n8n config. So it looks quite complicated, but it's actually quite simple. And just to explain that very quickly, if you take this example, n8n actually has the same format for each of its modules, where this left window will always show you the inputs to that module. This middle section is the configuration of that module. And then this orange area will be the output of the module that it passes on to the next part of the workflow. So it's all very standardized because for a lot of beginners, this is the part that they think is quite complicated. But if you really think about it in this framework, it becomes much simpler. So if you go back to your Telegram trigger, obviously the inputs will come from you, so you don't need to set this up. So the only thing for you to set up is for you to connect it to your own Telegram account, which you can do by clicking on this credential to connect with. And you can see I already have one set up here, but I'll just show how to do it, which is quite simple. Click Create a new credential, and all you need to find is your access token from Telegram. And for you to get that, you first need to set it up via what Telegram calls the bot fodder. So if you go to this URL, which you can just click if you're part of the community, that will then take you to this page. And if you click Start Bot, it will then open up Telegram and let you chat with the bot fodder. And just to explain what this is very quickly, believe it or not, this is the official Telegram method to create agents within their platform. So if you just type in /newbot, it will just ask you a name to call it and then provide a username for it, which needs to be unique and needs to be ending with the word bot. So let's just try this. So if it's already taken, you can just give it a different username for it to be unique. And that one was unique, and it has provided me a link to chat with that agent. But that access token that we were just talking about is now provided by the bot fodder here. So you just need to copy that. So when you have that copied, just paste it here and then click on save, and then go back to your canvas by again clicking away. And then click on save, which is just a good habit to have as you build this workflow, and also to test it. So as we build this automation, you'll see me testing the workflow quite a bit, which is just good practice so that it's much easier for you to debug things as errors come up. So click on test workflow. And now what's happening is this agent is waiting for a command over a Telegram. So if you go back to the bot fodder, click on the link it provided you for your bot, click on start. And because that sent a message, you can see that n8n was able to receive that message as your trigger. And so if you double click that, you will see that the output has now received that message, which is great because we can now proceed to the next step. So after testing, just click on this bin icon so that it deletes the current execution data so that you can just test it freely for the next runs. So for the next module, you can see here in our input area that we have a switch node that diverges into these two different modules, where one is for text and the other is for voice. And what that basically will do is allow you to communicate to your agent either by typing it or by speaking to it in Telegram. So if you go back to what we're setting up, just click on this plus icon and search for switch. And here you just need to set up two routing rules. So this is one, you can just rename that into text. And if you add another routing rule, you can once again rename that and name it as voice. So for you to set these up, just click on test step, and you can see n8n is now waiting for a trigger to execute. And if you go back to your Telegram bot, you can just give it a message like so, text test. And with that information received, you will now have some data here in the input. And if you go to schema, what you want to do is under this message drop down, find the text, which is the one that you just typed, and drag it into this routing rule. And just change this is equal to into string exists. And what that basically says is if there is a typed message that your trigger received and it exists, it will route the workflow to this part of your automation. And for you to set up this second route, which is the voice, just click away and then click this bin icon so that that current execution is removed. And then if you double click on the switch again, click on test step once again, and then go back to your Telegram and now send it a voice message. And now I am sending this test voice message. And once that has been sent, it again receives some input values here. But this time, there is this voice section, which is that file we just sent via Telegram. And what you want to do is drag this file ID under voice into value 1. Again, set this condition from is equal to is exists. And what that will do is route your automation to this second branch if there is a voice file that was provided. So if you click that away, click on save, and just clear your automation again, you now have the switch set up. And now it's time to set up text and voice. So let's set up text first. And what you want to add here as a node is the edit fields function. And all you need to do here is, again, click on test step, open your Telegram, and then give another test message here. And then once you have that input schema, just click on add field and name this field as text. And the value you should set as this text option under switch. So just drag that into that field and then clear the cache again. So now that text is set up. The last one we'll set up for this input section would be the voice. And the node you want here is under Telegram, and just find the action called get a file. So click on that. And again, to set this up, just click on test step. And it says here there's a problem running workflow. And the reason why is because there's no file ID here. So just add anything there for now. And then test step again. And now it's waiting for a trigger, and this time send a voice note. This is a voice note test, and your workflow should run. And now under switch, it should now have a voice subsection here. And the field you want is this file ID. So just remove that initial value you put there and replace that with the file ID by dragging it. And then you're done. Click away. And now to complete this view, since you grabbed the file, it's still in audio format. You now need to convert that into text so that our agent can make sense of it. And for you to do that, we'll be using OpenAI's speech-to-text feature. And if you search for OpenAI and search for transcribe a recording, then you'll be able to set up this node quite easily. Because all you need to do is to add in your credential here to OpenAI. And you can see I already have one here. But just to illustrate, you can just click on create new credential. It will then ask for your API key, which if you go to our community, I have the link to that, which you can just click so that it goes to your page within OpenAI with your API keys. And if in case you don't have an OpenAI account yet, then just open one. And here, what you need to do is just click on create new secret key, give it a name if you wish, and then just create it and click on copy and paste it into that field. So once you click save, it should verify that it's tested successfully, and there, you're done. So if you test this workflow, you can now go to your agent, give it a text test to type it. You'll see that it executed successfully. And now if you open this, it now has that final value as an output, which we'll be using in a bit. And then once again, if you test it, just for audio this time, you can give it any audio file that you need, and it successfully ran that workflow. And if we open this final module, it just gave me the transcription of the audio file that I just created there, which is this one. So there you go, that's the first section already done. So now it's time to step into the config of our AI agent, which arguably is probably the best part of this tutorial, because this single module is why you'll realize why n8n is God's gift to mankind, because of how easy it is to set up. Because if I click on this plus icon, just search for the AI agent node and then click away. You'll just need to make sure that this is also connected to that agent by dragging it. Here you can see that the AI agent has 3 pieces to it: the chat model, a memory base, and the tools. And if you look at our end-in-mind agent here, basically you can imagine all of those pieces to be connected to the agent just like Lego blocks, and they are modular in nature. So for example, you can attach tools to this agent depending on what you need, which for our case we have a few here based on the functions that we will employ in a bit. But the reason why the chat model is the only one with asterisk is because memory and tools are actually optional. So for simplicity, we'll save this area for the end so that we can illustrate how the whole automation works end to end. And so to set that up, just add a chat model here. And you can see there's a lot of options here based on the latest language models that's out there. Let's use OpenAI since that's the simplest and we've already set that up. And under here, it should already be connected to the credentials that you set up in the previous step. And for the model, I just use 4.0 mini because that's the fastest and cheapest one. In that setup, you can just click away. And then the other thing you want to do is to double click on this AI agent and then just change the source for the prompt into define below. And under this text, you would want the text from that Telegram message that you are sending. And so for you to get that, just add in any placeholder text for now so that you can click on test step. And now your workflow is again waiting for a message from your Telegram bot that now provided me with some input schema here. And now you have this text, which if you remove your placeholder and just drag that into this field, then that is now linked so that the AI agent can use that as your input. And under options, for you to customize the response of this agent, you want to add in a system message, where by default n8n just adds in you are a helpful assistant, but here you can give it some commands. So for example, for the sake of testing, you can have it, let's say you put an underscore between each text instead of spaces, like this text, just so you can see how it works. And if you click away, you now have the agent actually now set up. Test the workflow again, give it a sample trigger, just like this audio file. It will activate this workflow and the AI agent has now absorbed it. And if you click on that, you can see that it took this input, which is what I just said, and then used ChatGPT to provide this output, which you can tell it works because there's an underscore separating each word, because that's exactly what we commanded it to. So that's now fully set up. So now before we enrich it with more memory and more tools, let's just quickly finish this workflow because it's much easier to understand that way, so that you can start to receive the output of this agent into your Telegram bot. Because obviously you're not going to be in n8n when you communicate to your agent, right? So to set that up, we just have a few modules to get through, which is in this orange area here. So if I click on plus and find again Telegram, and under that, you just need to find the send a text message action. And this should already be connected to your Telegram account. So the remaining fields to set up is this chat ID and text. So just put a placeholder text there for now, as we usually do, and then click on test step. And now it's again waiting for a trigger from your bot, which you can just do by typing in something to your Telegram. And now, if you remove these placeholders, we can now just drag the chat ID coming from this switch section, which is this one, to that place. And for the text, you would want to get the output that your AI agent has provided you and drag that here. So now what this will do is grab the text that your agent has spoken and reply it to the same chat ID that you were talking to it in, which is basically this space. So now if we click away and delete the current execution data, click on test workflow, ask it a question that is something easy, something like, what letter comes after X? You can see it activates the workflow and it was able to correctly answer and respond to you in your Telegram bot. So that's great. But if you remember in our final automation, we have a section here that generates the voice of Samantha. Because apart from the text response that we get from the agent, we also have this remark by our assistant that complements the response that we got. So to set that up, just click again on the end of your AI agent and search for a basic LLM chain. And here, very simply, what you just need to do is change the source for prompt as a specific defined below. And under this text will be the prompt that you would give your agent so that it acts like the character that you want it to, which in our case will be Samantha, which is the AI agent assistant from the movie Her. Now you can make this as detailed as you want it to be, but to make it easy, I've actually included in the community this character prompt already, which you can just copy paste and place within this text so that it's set up very quickly for you. Just make sure to click expression, because if I just quickly expand that, you'll see here in the bottom that there's some inputs to it that's in brackets, which would be a dynamic text that it would be receiving from previous modules. You would also probably want to change the name here so that it knows your name instead of what I've put here at the top, which is J. So just make sure to change that as well. So now if we click away and just move that a bit, the only thing missing is this model, which again, you can just attach an OpenAI chat model there, and that's already all set up. So you can just click away once again. So if you just test that again, give it another text like what comes after Sunday, you can see that the basic LLM chain has now succeeded as well. And now it's provided us with some text that aligns to the character of Samantha from Her. So now this is ready to be converted into audio, which we will be doing via RoboLabs. So if I just continue this, what you want to do is to find an HTTP request node so that you'll be able to call RoboLabs to make an audio from that text. So to set this up, just change this one to post, which is basically you requesting 11Labs. For the URL, just put in for now this 11Labs standard URL, which is what you will be calling onto to request for the audio. And then under authentication, click on generic credential type. And then for generic auth, click on custom auth. And here you can see I already have my account set up, but let's create a new credential so that you can watch how it's done. And here, what's different is it is actually asking for a JSON piece of text. And to get that, you just need to go to our community and copy this piece, or just type it out and put that here. And then you can see that within this JSON text, it's asking for your API key here. And that is basically your 11Labs API key. So if you scroll up, you can see there's a link here under 11Labs, which if you click on that, you'll be able to sign up to 11Labs and try out for free. And once you are in your dashboard, just click on your profile here on the bottom left and click on API keys, and then create an API key here, give it a name or accept the one provided by 11Labs, and then just copy this API key that it has provided you to your clipboard. And what you just need to do is to copy that text into here, making sure that there are double quotes surrounding it, and that's important or else it wouldn't work, and just click on save. So there, you now have your authorization well set up. So the final things you need to do here is to click on send headers and then just type this out exactly. Name would be content type and the value would be application/JSON. That's just a requirement that 11Labs has. And then under send body, toggle that on. And then for specify body, just click on using JSON, which in our community, you can just copy this or type it out and paste it here and then change it to expression. So now what that does is take in the text from the previous module, remove some characters that are problematic when it comes to voice generation, and then uses 11Labs' model, which they named as this multilingual V2, is their latest, to generate a voice. So now if we just test this step, you'll see an error that will come up. Just ask your agent a question like, how are you? You can see that in our input and click on table, it was able to receive the script to voice out pretty well, but it wasn't able to generate speech because we haven't selected a voice yet. And 11Labs actually has a whole library of voices, but when browsing through them, this one I think has the closest sounding voice to Samantha. So if you just click on that, you'll be able to try it out by clicking this play icon.
Hey, I'm Heather. I love exploring. Are you ready for an adventure? Let's do it.
And for you to use it, just click on add to my voices. And then once that's added, just click on this ID so that you have that ID copied. And then if you go back to your 11Labs HTTP request setup, just paste that ID at the end of this URL, which basically tells 11Labs that, hey, this is the voice that I want to use. So now if you click away, clear the cache, test the workflow again, ask another question, our 11Labs request is now successful. And if I double click on that, you can see that there's now an audio file that will say what we have on this text here on the left.
I'm doing fabulously, just savoring the little moments. How about you, Jay? What delightful escapade can I help you with today?
So now that we have that file, the final step is to just send it via Telegram. So just click on plus, search for Telegram, and then look for the send an audio file action. Click on test step so that you can get some inputs here. Though of course you need another placeholder for it to run. Click on test step once again, and now it's waiting for a trigger. Let's just provide one. And now this module has received some data. And if I go back to schema, you would want the chat ID to be your original chat conversation. So if you scroll all the way down to the Telegram trigger section, you can find the chat ID there. So just delete your placeholder for now and then put in the chat ID. And then for binary file, just toggle that on. And then under additional fields, you would want to give a file name to it. And you can just name that into whatever you want, which in my case, I've named it as Sam. So now if I click away, clear the cache, test the workflow again, and then ask another question to our agent, what will happen is that it is providing me with a text response. And now 11Labs has generated an audio and sent that audio file to me as my agent. So now if I click on this file,
I'm on cloud nine. Thanks for asking, Jay. Now, what delightful mischief can we get into today?
you can see that it has provided a response to me based on the character that I have been prompting it with. Okay, so we're in the middle of the video and I just wanted to thank you for making it to this point. Great work. And I just wanted to quickly mention a bonus that I will teach at the end of this lesson, which is the fact that apart from Samantha from her, you can actually customize this workflow for any character that you want, and I'll provide you access to a custom GPT where you can just type in the character's name and you are provided a detailed prompt that you can just paste into your n8n workflow so that you can have any character that you want. Like this one for Maleficent.
How delightfully mundane your suggestions are. Perhaps I could conjure a stroke of inspiration to elevate your endeavors. What chaos shall we weave together?
Or even this one that emulates Jarvis from Iron Man.
Good morning. I'm functioning at peak efficiency as always, unlike certain organic life forms after their third cup of coffee. What can I assist you with today, or shall we simply revel in the beauty of our exchange?
So stick to the end if you want to learn how to do that in the easiest way possible. And there you go. The output section is now done and you are now able to receive the responses from your agent. Now the only thing that remains are all these bells and whistles that you have for your agent, which are basically tools that allows it to connect to your Gmail, connect to your Google Calendar, access the web via this tool called SERP API, access your Notion database, and even store memory. So that is the last step that we will be setting up to make Samantha even more powerful. And by the way, before we do that, it's just best to clean this up. And then also, if you want to rename your modules, just do a right click and click rename. And there, it's just much cleaner this way. Okay, great. So now you have set up your first AI agent. Congratulations. But obviously we won't stop there because remember, we still have a few tools to add to our AI agent to make them smarter. And so that is what we will do to fully set up our agent assistant with Samantha. So now if we go back to our agent, the first thing we want to just improve is this system prompt. So if you remember, we just put in a placeholder system prompt here, which is also why the text output from the agent has been looking like this. So it looks pretty weird. So you want to replace that system message with something more refined. And what I have here in the community is just a pretty long system prompt that you can copy paste. And I'll go through the important parts in a bit. But for now, if you're part of the community, just copy that and paste that here. And make sure to change that to expression. And now if you expand that, you can see there's just a couple of dynamic values here indicated by the curly brackets, which is this time value, which if you see the actual result, it returns the time now. And then this comes in complete with some system prompts around email management, calendar management, Notion retrieval for your company database, and also some prompts for it to understand how to handle website and information queries. So just leave that be for now. And now the next thing you want to set up is this memory module. So if you click on that, there are a couple of options here, but the simplest one that will also satisfy our use case is this window buffer memory. And if I click on that, what it will basically do is allow your agent to remember the last 5 conversations, because what you have here by default in the context window length is 5. Now, if you wanted to remember the past 10 interactions, you can just type in 10. But for our case, we can just leave that be and then click away. And now Samantha has some memory so that for every succeeding message that you send it, she'll be able to remember your previous messages. And then under tools, if you recall in this final view, there's quite a lot of tools here. And like I said before, these are all modular, so it's really up to you if you want to add all of these in. But for this tutorial, we will go through each one of them because they're quite easy to set up, honestly. The simplest one that you can add is this tool called Calculator. And it doesn't even have any parameters that you need to set up because you just simply add it. It's to allow Samantha to do mathematics easier because since she's a language model, you might have read somewhere that they're not exactly the best when it comes to arithmetic. Having this tool available for her will just allow her to use it like a normal person would. Now, the next thing we want to give her is the function to send an email. And for that, there's actually a few tools here around email. There's one on Outlook, but for this use case, we'll illustrate it via Gmail. And if you click on that, the first thing you want to do is to set up your credentials to connect with your own Google account. So I already have one here, but if it's your first time, you can create a new credential through that, and then just click sign in with Google. And once you've selected the email that you want to link, you can just select all of these credentials and click on continue. And there you go. That Google account is now connected. And then under operation, since we want this to be the capability to get messages or read messages from your inbox, you just want to set the operation to get many. For the limit, this basically sets the limit of how many messages it will retrieve in its memory. So you can just set it as 20, leave simplify as on, and then for filters, you probably just want to get the ones in your inbox, not in the sent messages or trash. So just add a filter for label names or IDs, and then select inbox and also the ones that are unread, and then click away. And then to make it clear to the agent what this tool does, just rename it to something like Gmail read. And so now if I test it, it will wait for a triggering event. And this time, what I will ask it to do is summarize my latest unread email. And we have an error in this window buffer memory is what it says. So let's just troubleshoot that real quick. And I think what I just forgot is to change this session ID from this to define below. And then for the key, you can just add in any fixed text here, like hop, for example, and then click away. And then if you test that again, so now if we just give it the same command, it will activate the workflow, use the Gmail read tool, provided me with a summary of the latest email that I got, and a voice note from Sam.
Looks like Hugh's brewing up a little caffeine-fueled reunion. How about we serve up a reply that's as warm as that coffee's going to be?
And if you're curious, this is basically that email that it summarized, which is great because it was able to capture that completely. Now, of course, you want to give it a way to send emails. So if you just click on Tool, find again the Gmail tool there, get to your same credential, have the operation be send, change the email type to text, and then for these fields, which is basically where the email will be sent, the subject of the email, and the message or the body of the email itself, it would of course need to be dynamic that the agent herself can fill in. So if you just go back to our community, copy these 3 lines for the 2, subject and body, into here. Subject goes here, and the body goes here. And then change all of that to expressions. What this now allows your agent to do is define what she wants to put under these fields and using these descriptions to guide her. So if you just copy that in full, you can click away, click on save, and then let's test the workflow again. And let's do a voice note this time. I'll say, hey, Samantha, please send an email to jeff@amazon.com asking him if he's free for a coffee catch-up. And you can see the workflow is activated. It used the Gmail send message tool, and it actually sent a message to that email, as well as a note from Sam.
Looks like you've already brewed up a coffee date with Jeff. Hope that catch-up is as delightful as a perfectly crafted macchiato, Jay.
And if I go to my sent mail, you can see that that message actually got sent. All right, so now Samantha has access to our email. The next thing that we want to set up is her access to Google Calendar. So if I click again on plus, find Google Calendar, your credential should already be connected to that Google account. Set the operation to get many because this one is for Samantha to read your Google Calendar. And then just select the calendar that you want to integrate. In my case, it would be this one. And then for the date, instead of now, you might want to set that into a fixed date and time. So if I go in fixed, I can just select to something like January 1st of this year, and then just leave that be. So you can just rename this to something like calendar read. And then let's go ahead and set up another calendar module. And this time we will set it up so that Samantha can create appointments in our calendar. So in this config, the operation will remain as create. Select the calendar that you want to integrate it in. And then for start and end, you would actually want to delete these values, both of them, because you will want the AI agent to place the values here intelligently. And then add another property that's called the summary, which is actually the title of your calendar invite. So for these fields, if you just go back to the community and scroll down under this calendar create section, you can just begin to copy each of these into their respective fields like so, and then make sure that each of these are expressions. And now what this will do is allow your AI agent to dynamically and intelligently put in start and end dates for each of those fields using the description that you provided here as its guideline. And so now that is set up. So if you click away, click on save, you want to also rename this tool into something more descriptive so that the agent can understand what it does, something like calendar create. Go ahead and test this workflow. And then for this test, I'll provide it a command to set up a coffee catch-up meeting tomorrow. And this time for this specific email. And if I click send, it will then activate the workflow. You can see that it used the calendar create tool. And now it's just summarizing that command, which the agent has provided us a confirmation of, as well as an accompanying note by Samantha.
Rendezvous with
And if I go to my Google Calendar, you can see that that event has been created here. And just to illustrate this calendar read function, you can test the workflow again and ask it something like, what are my meetings tomorrow? It activated the tool, as you can see, and now you can see that it was able to fetch that accurately, which is exactly what we need. So now if we go to our final workflow, there's just 2 more tools that we want to set up, and this basically allows your agent to search the internet using this tool called SERP API and search your internal database, which we're using Notion for this example. So to add those tools in, just click on plus, find SERP API, and then here, all you need to do is to set up your credential. So click on Create New Credential, and then once again, it will ask for your API key here, which if you go to the community, there's an easy URL there that you can just click, and it will take you to SERP API, which is basically a service that allows tools like n8n to integrate to different search engines, which if you see their documentation, they have like dozens here that your agent can have access to once you integrate them. So just go ahead and register, and under API key, you'll be able to copy this API key and then just paste it over at n8n and click on save. So now if you click away, Samantha now has access to the internet. So if I test that workflow, ask it for something like, what's a good movie that's coming up in 2025 that's AI related? You can see it uses SERP API in order to search for that. And it summarized for me a movie recommendation, which apparently there's a Tron Ares movie that's coming up later this year. So that's pretty cool. And then finally, if you have an internal database and you want to connect it, there's several tools that you can use, but the one I recommend to try it out would be this Notion tool. So just select that. And then same as the others, you just want to have your credentials connected. So go ahead and create a new credential there. And for you to get this internal integration secret, you just go to this URL where you can basically create integrations for tools like n8n. So just click on new integration, and then for your workspace, select the one that best applies. Keep the type as internal. No need to submit a logo, but the name is required. So let's just give it another one. And then under integration settings, just make sure that these capabilities are ticked. And by default, they would be anyway. So now you have this internal integration secret, which you can show and copy and just place it in this credentials area. And there, that is tested successfully. In Notion, you just need to define which pages you want this new integration to have access to. And let's say you have this company knowledge base, which by the way, if you just need to test it, there's a link here in the community for you to copy the template from. But what you need to do is in this page, click on this ellipsis on the upper right, and within connections, just find the integration you just created. In our case, it's this one, and click on confirm. And now your agent would have access to that page and its child pages. So you just want to change this to database, keep the operation as get, and then from the list, we want to select this company knowledge base, which we just connected, and remove this simplify toggle so that we get the whole download from that Notion document. So just click away, click on save, and then now if we test this workflow and ask Samantha something like, what's our VPN that we use as per the company database? You can see that it retrieves that from Notion and was able to return that information correctly. And it even provides a link to where to find that here. And you can see that this is the row that it retrieved it from. So pretty cool. And there, all the modules for this workflow has now been set up. And as a final step, just make sure to turn on this workflow so that it can receive messages from Telegram and run the workflow immediately as executions come in. Congratulations, you just made Samantha from her. And as mentioned, as a bonus for making it to the end of this video, if you scroll down in the bonus section and click on this link, that will take you to our custom GPT, where you can provide any character that you want, like for example, Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, and that will output for you a character prompt that you can just copy paste, replace this prompt in this basic LLM chain, and then if you click on this HTTP request and change the voice that we're using for RoboLabs to something more suitable, at least for our Maleficent example, this is one that I found. So change that there, and then let's run this workflow. And when we talk to our agent,
Dreadfully dull. Though that could change, depending on what chaos you bring me. Now tell me, what delightful mischief do you seek to unleash today?
so that is available for all of our community members to use. So have fun. And we are done. Thank you for listening. This one took a while to build, record, and edit, so appreciate your support. And if you can give a like and subscribe, that would be great. And if you want to learn more about everything related to AI and AI agents, check out the link in the description for our community. There's a lot of great support here from different members and different AI professionals, as well as a couple dozen lessons on how you can maximize your AI learning as well. So check that out if in case it interests you. See you guys next time. Thank you.